Hi, I'm Dylan. I like to make music, and I like to make art, and like 700,000 other people in America, I'm transgender. I think it's time that people learn to humanize us, and I think it's time that we shared our stories. 2 years ago, as a new freshman in high school, I would attend a class schedule with a name and gender on it that was not my own. I was told that because of this little S marked to indicate female, I would be changing in the girls' locker room before PE class. I remember the periods before PE, skipping class to sit in the bathroom and cry, asking myself why did I have to be this way, and why can't I just have my gender match the one on the little piece of paper. All of this self-doubt and anxiety led me to a behavioral healthcare center later in the year after a suicide attempt. We already know the statistics, or so we think we do. Maybe you already knew that 41% of transgender individuals have attempted suicide at one or more points in their lives. But maybe you didn't know that that number is 13 times higher for trans kids whose identities have been rejected by their parents, as opposed to trans kids whose identities have been accepted by their parents. I've interviewed a couple of my friends who are transgender, asking them about their experiences, what they would like people to know, and how people can best support them.
I would say that my overall transition has been a really positive one. You know, I am really thankful for the people that have lived before me that were also trans because their advocacy for their own rights has led to my rights and my happiness being upheld. And, as a trans person today, the media often doesn't portray us in like the most accurate way. And so I feel like my transition dispels, stereotypes. And in general, I haven't had any backlash for my transition, especially because I did transition at an early age. And so I feel like that attributed to it. And like in the past, people would have transitioned at a later age, and that allowed people to give them more backlash because people are really a lot meaner to adults and they will speak their mind about them. But like overall, I feel like my transition in this day and age has been positive, partly because of the people that have lived before me, and partly because choose to surround myself with people that help me grow, the people that nurture me to become the person that I'm meant to be. And although not everyone is on board, no one will ever be on board for anything. People have different opinions. I feel like overall, I've had a positive one, and so I am lucky in that
This has
regard.
been generally favorable, but there has been a couple of people that I've had to drop out from my life because they've basically told me that I'm not who I know I am to be, which I think is ridiculous because how can you tell me who I am when I know who I am? Um, but generally speaking, I pass pretty well, so that helps me to have a lot of privilege in this area. So I don't really get like a lot of negative comments or negative actions or like violence from others because of that. Um, but I still like have that like anxiety and fear about somebody finding out that I'm trans and like using that against me in some way, which I think is a legitimate fear because it happens all the time. Um, but yeah, besides that, I'm pretty good. And losing some family members, but that's whatever.
So one thing I would like for people to know before I move on is that I'm actually very sick right now. So it's kind of hard for me to talk. Um, but one thing that I would like people to know about transgender people in general is that it is wrong to think of us in a very sexualized way. And what I mean by that is people hypersexualize what it means to be transgender. And like they think that if you're a transgender, you're almost like, you know, over sexualized. And they start to think that it's okay to ask you questions like, oh, what do you have on there? What's your genitalia? Have you gotten the surgery? Do you find it hard dating? And it's like First of all, just because I'm trans, it doesn't give you the right to all of a sudden try to intrude in my life, especially sexually, because you wouldn't do that to any random person walking down the street, but you choose to do it to mine because you think it's okay. People think that the transgender identity includes some perversion in it, and it doesn't. And that's just one thing that I would want people to know about being transgender is that it's hard when people over sexualize your identity.
So is there anything you would like people to know about your experience, and is there anything you'd like people to know about trans people in general?
Yeah, I mean, being trans is like, it's a difficult thing to do. I mean, not just with the fear and anxiety, but with the actual violence that we experience. So it's just like, I just feel that people need to know that we are human beings and we have feelings. Like, every time you say, the T slur, every time you like say any kind of disparaging remark about a trans person, you're not talking about a transgendered. You're talking about a human being who is being physically and mentally and emotionally harmed by what you're doing and what you're saying. So I think people need to be mindful of the way that they treat others, especially if they're treating others because they're different. Because I mean, we all bleed red, and even though I'm trans and you're not, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm still a human being, and I deserve that basic human respect and compassion that you would give to people who are exactly like you.
I think the best way for allies to show their support to transgender people would be to show us that we're not any different, that they accept us, because in this society, oftentimes we're not accepted by our families, a lot of our friends, teachers, counselors. But if there's someone there to tell us like we're not alone and that they support us and that they understand what we're going through, then that's ultimately such a big help. No one wants to feel like they're alone, you know? And so I feel like one of the best ways to help transgender people would be by giving us time and giving us a chance. If you meet a transgender person, don't just not be their friend because of that. Give them a chance. Let their personality grow on you, because chances are you're missing out on a really good friend if you're not talking to someone just because they're trans.
So I feel that there are a couple ways and ways that allies can better support trans people like me. Number one, I feel like it's really important for allies to be mindful of their place. And by that, I mean, like, they need to understand that it's not always their place to talk about or have certain conversations regarding transness because they're not trans. And I feel like a lot of allies need to learn to be respectful of a trans person's opinion and critique of certain things regarding transness, because we obviously know it better than they do. And I feel like a lot of allies don't really are more like, oh, I'm gonna pretend to be this thing, to pretend to be nice to a person, but I'm not really gonna listen to them or be respectful of their boundaries, which I think is super important and people don't do. And I think above all, it's primarily about educating yourself. Like, I learned so much of what cis people need to know about trans people from Googling it, and that means you can do it too. And if you think that you can't Google it, or you supposedly try and are unable to find information, you need to try harder.
Number 1. Educate yourself. Start by using Google and Googling words such as transgender, non-binary, and genderqueer. These words were just recently added to the Merriam-Webster dictionary online. If someone introduces themselves with their pronouns, use them. And introduce yourself with your own. For example, hi, I'm Dylan, and my pronouns are they, them, theirs. And if you're not comfortable with using they, them, theirs, then you can use she, her, or he, him. Just a reminder that if you don't know someone's pronouns, it's okay to ask. Avoid certain words and phrases, such as, what's in your pants? Have you had the surgery? What's your real name? And words such as tranny and transsexual. Avoid backhanded compliments, such as, wow, you're so pretty. I would have never guessed you're trans. Wow, you look just like a real woman/man. And you're even prettier than I am. Next, attempt to educate people making offensive jokes about trans people. A majority of them don't know it's actually not okay. Support gender neutral restrooms on social media and in more tangible ways, such as in your work or school. Gender-neutral restrooms are everywhere. There might even be one in your own home. Most importantly, listen to us. Ask us how you can help best support us, and let us know you care. Hi, I'm Dylan. I'm trans. But I'm so much more than that. I like to make art, and I like to make music, and I like to make change. And I think that change starts from within ourselves. If I could go back and tell myself one thing from what I know now, it would be to keep going. Because things do get better. People have become way more accepting of who I am, and I've become way more accepting of who I am. And I finally know that it's okay